My name is Mark Waid, and you're listening to Dom of X.
What's going on, guys? My name is Dom of X, comicreleases.com, associate editor, and today I have a special interview thanks to the fine folks, including our good friend Riley, for setting this up. But back for the third time on my channel, albeit in different circumstances, is the legendary man himself, Mark Waid. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, good. Doing all right today.
Awesome. And new to the channel and here to discuss a brand new top secret until it gets revealed project upcoming is AJ Light. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you
Well,
for
thank you.
having us.
Thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to talk about this Kickstarter and everything that has to go along with it. But as I've asked Mark this question before, I want to bring it up back to you, AJ. How did you get into the fandom? How did you get into comics, and what made you decide maybe it's time to start actually getting into the business of it?
Well, I've always been a fan of comics since I was 11 years old. I got my first G.I. Joe back when it was like 25 cents, I think, a copy or something in the 80s. And it was actually issue 26. It was a great issue. Anyway, I got into that because I wasn't a big fan of reading. My mom got me turned on to comics and got into that stuff. Later on, I've always been in like the creative side of things because I was in the circus for a little bit as a performer, and I've been working full time as a Cirque du Soleil coach now in Las Vegas. But what happened was the pandemic kind of rattled live entertainment, and I got with my other partner in. There's actually three of us all together, but we at first it was just me and Ridge. Got together around a kitchen table, his kitchen table, during the pandemic when live entertainment was gone, and said, "Man, what do we want to do with our lives? And let's do something fun, and and what other passions can we look into?" And that's kind of how this thing started. It actually started as concepts for a game, and then I started writing short stories just to do the backstory of these characters. And Ridge was like, "That's not such a bad idea. Why don't we, if you could link them?" And I started linking them, and it turned into a book. And then from the book, he said, "Well, it'd be kind of cool if we could write some comic books." And I said, "Okay, I'll try that." And uh, and so I started to do some scripting of comic books, and then through a mutual friend, I got the honor of meeting Mark, and that's just been bam, blowing up. So I mean, that's in a nutshell the last 4 years or so, but that's kind of it.
Mark, similarly in that question, what endeared you to helping out AJ in this project? You are one of the busiest men that I know for the last 30 years.
Yes, and I'm grateful for that every day. But I was approached. Like you said, a mutual friend of ours put us in touch, and I was introduced to the Alpha Clash crew and the world, and I am approached a lot of times about stuff like this, but what intrigued me here was that, okay, this stuff is really well thought out. This is a world that is not, it doesn't feel ad hoc. It just feels like you planned all this and thought it through so that the world feels like something I might be able to contribute to and a world that I am comfortable playing in. And so that made it very attractive to me. And just the idea of also, just it's always wise and smart in your career to sort of reach outside of where your comfort zone is and work with companies that you're not usually working with, just to mix things up. And it's been a great experience so far.
Because you are the man behind, well, seemingly everything at DC nowadays, from a
Seemingly, yeah.
Crisis event to tie-ins to the current DC KO event. But what makes the consulting and apprenticeship helpship in this project different from the DC universe for this trading card game?
Oh, it's wildly different because there's just it's a the canvas is more infinite, right? It is I love the DC universe, I love the Marvel universe, I know them backward and forward, but that's just it. I know them backward and forward. This is a chance to be in a world and a universe that I don't really know that well, and to be able to discover stuff is fun. And it's also a reality that's not burdened by 80, 85 years of continuity, so that it is not there's a lot more room for me to look at these characters that are fairly fresh and find a way in for myself. Like what is my handle on this character? What can I say about this character? What insight might I have on this character? Which is easier to do with brand new, fresh characters than it certainly is to do with characters that have been around for 85 or 90 years.
AJ, do you feel in that same regard something that you can just go on a blank canvas and just do whatever the heck you want to? Do you feel that there is freedom in that?
Oh, absolutely. It's freedom and it's terrifying all at the same
Hmm.
time because you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like who's gonna like this stuff? But it's at the same time, it's great because it is. It's this freedom we can. I like to think of myself as a fan of comics and what I would like to read, and then I kind of just write that, and say, oh, this would be kind of fun, and of course, leaning on Mark's expertise and everything is a huge tool to and confidence boost also to
Hmm.
because if you didn't like it and I'd go back and change something or whatever and so yeah, I mean it's just been great.
Well, for certain. And in this as well, because you have written before, maybe not in the comics realm, but in other realms, probably no
Hmm.
pun intended, with novels and, handbooks and whatnot. But we have seen the transition of a lot of novel writers, especially in recent years, like Eve Ewing, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and creators like that. What would you say has been the biggest challenge and or transition in from writing prose to writing something that is 20 to 24 pages of story and having yourself confined in that aspect?
That's a great question, and to me it's just a matter of kind of uh, turning my brain around the issue of what we want, and to think visually. I've been fortunate enough to be a very visual person anyway. I've always learned by watching and then doing, any kind of activity, whether it be athletics or acrobatics or whatever. And so that's been helpful in that regard. Um, and it is something where, I just try and think of my audience as much as I can and think about, okay, when I'm writing a novel or a lot of prose and you can get lost in the weeds. And some people really like that of like, taking a most minuscule thing and putting the details to it. What does that smell like? How does that feel? What's the vibration of it as it creaks open or, whatever. And now we have to kind of externalize some things and say, okay, what's it going to look like if this guy is having an internal conflict? And where would the viewer be looking at over the shoulder or up or down or what would be the most dramatic? So in that regard, I kind of write for the artist in the frameworks and then the panels, and then the dialogue is still for the audience of what we'd say. It's kind of right.
Well, for certain, and I can think of so many good Mark Waid books like Superman Birthright, where you and Lainell are just finding ways to make it as cinematic as possible, but also feel as emotional as possible. Do you feel like AJ is going to get to that point, Mark?
Oh, he's I way past that point. I mean, he understands two important things. He understands that it's a visual medium, which a lot of novelists who do comics do not understand and have to be taught. And the other thing that he knows is that at the end of the day, uh, you have to want to spend time with these characters, whether they're evil, whether they're good, whether they're admirable, whether they're not. They have to be people that you want to spend time with. Uh, and that means getting into their heads. That means understanding who they are from the inside out and how they see the world and what makes them unique and what makes them relatable. I think all those things is stuff that he knows. So, he's making a big deal about being an apprentice or whatever. It's not, it's just no, no, no. We're working on this together. We both have slightly different skill sets, but it's been fun, and the story that we cooked up is a blast, and it is takes place 5 years after the original awakening. It happens you know after things have not settled down so much, but it's become a part of the world. It is no longer news every day that this happens. They're the awakened out there. And you know, how do they fit into society 5 years later? What are they doing? What are they contributing to the world? And then building a story around that has real drama and real stakes has been a blast.
It sounds a lot like the 5 years later Legion that you definitely
Yeah,
have had an experience
that's
with,
right. I
Mark.
didn't think about that, but there's a little bit of that. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's true. Uh, so, so yeah, we created a couple of new alphas. We created our main protagonist, Dr. Summers, who is uh, an elevated genius because of all of this, but to the point where he's still human. He still has human reactions. He's still emotional. He's not a robot. But at the same time, because his intellect is working on such a high level, it's a curse as much as a blessing because we get to really understand how alone that makes him feel in this world, how disconnected it makes him from his wife and his former friends and so forth, because he's just working on a different plane. And he does, he's not arrogant about it, but he just gets bored talking about little stuff. He's cracking formulas in his head all day long. So there's that. I like him a lot. He's the driver of the story. He's the one who realizes that a lot of these characters that appeared 5 years ago, some of them are very public now. Some of them are still, pretty, you know, pretty accessible, but some of them have just kind of seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. And what is the story there?
I can only imagine AJ in the creation of all of this, how detail oriented you must have been like to write down all of these different characteristics for all of these different characters because I think like Mark has mentioned, plenty of times already, the core of a lot of these stories are the characters and
Mhm.
how much they have to propel the story because if we don't have a protagonist or if we don't have a set of characters that we can connect with as an audience, it's going to be really hard to push forward a narrative that people are going to buy in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it it goes to just good storytelling, like what makes us connect with
Mhm.
people, and we don't connect. Most people connect with other people, right? So like, your characters need to have those personalities, have those kinds of quirks, have those kinds of challenges that maybe all of us can relate to in some respect, and then I'm hoping that's where things happen and connect and stuff like that.
Mhm.
For
Well,
certain.
but there's also the notion then that we also tend to connect, but nowadays we tend to connect only within our own tribe, right?
Hmm.
It seems to be where we do. And I think that where our story is going leads us in a place where we are asking our characters to sort of step outside that comfort zone as well and try to show that you you you, you can't be insulated in this world. You can't be a part of it, apart from it, and be a part of it, right?
Yeah, that's very well said.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's something that I always bring back to like can you like what are the challenges that you're going to give to your characters as well because if it's just a regular roses and dandy and everything is all right story right there you need something I think to drive that as well or else you're not going to have something compelling enough for people to read.
Right. I mean, the heart of it really is that we are in late stage capitalism, pal. And anyone who can make money off of somebody else is doing it. And that applies to this world as the fictional world that we are in as well. And if all these alphas can do things, if all of them have powers, there's ways for people of nefarious means to be able to not just use them to rob banks, but to do big things to change the world. And so our big antagonist is someone who has figured out a way to leverage a lot of what has happened in the world in the last 5 years to change things the way he wants them to be.
And in this too, do you guys also find that strong protagonists who have to face those types of symbolic allegories, for example the character that you just described, Mark, I mean I think you need to find ways to not only integrate that well into the story but also make it an incredibly fun villain to see get put down because we don't I think anyways I personally don't like seeing those types of people succeed So I think, you know,
Right, right.
I think
Although they seem to be doing a pretty good job right now.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. One of the things, and one of the things that I completely agree with you, and one of the things that I like to do, I don't even know that I've mentioned this to Mr. Light yet, but one of the things I like to do when I finish a script and the villain is very heavy in it is go back and read the story through the villain's point of view to
Mm.
make sure that we know that their motivations are solid, their motivations make sense, and also, make sure that they are realized characters, that they have some real depth to it. Because it's easy sometimes to you're so focused on your superheroes, you're less focused on developing the villains, and so that's a good way of approaching it, so that the characters all have depth.
that is incredibly intellectual. Now that I'm looking back at it, it's like, you know, the surfer story that you did with Matt, and seeing that from his point of view. I mean, it completely changes up the entirety of the perspective of
Yeah.
the issue, for certain. I want to also ask, in the spirit of trading card games, because as somebody, I play Pokemon, not the trading card game per se, but I do manage to follow at least the pathway, if you will, for how these stories are told. Because it is a trading card game, AJ, do you feel like the story also kind of has to adhere to those rules that you set up in that trading card game, or do you feel like you can also do something more in that part as well?
I don't think there's a constraint to have it be part of that game and everything, because it's actually really been a lot of fun to work with my partners in Alpha Clash to say, okay, this is a power that I have, and they say, well, we can gamify that, and we can make this, we can figure out how to do this, and then vice versa. Sometimes they go, hey, um, we want to do this. Can you make a character out of that? And I go, yeah, I'll try. And then we kind of go back and forth, and it's real collaborative in that sense too. So I don't find it restrictive or constraining at all. It's actually and because to Mark's point earlier too, it's like our own world. We
Yeah.
can kind of make the rules up as we go and figure out, yeah, that's a cool person, or this is a cool organization we're going to have in our group, in our world, or whatever, and we can just kind of go back and forth.
Okay, you know what? I'm sold. I have to check this out then, considering that, you know, because I think part of why my brain goes into these weirdly is because sometimes you see, maybe it's a Dungeons and Dragons thing or something, and you feel like, oh, I have to be an expert at
Right.
whatever that must be.
Right.
But
And
this,
that is not the case here. I'd say the beauty of the world they've built, the beauty of the structure that they built with Alpha Clash, of course, is it's a collectible card game, but it is also a novel. It is also an audiobook. It is also a series of comics. And so, and yet they are connected, but they are not so connected that you feel like you have to know this part to understand this part. You have to do the card game in order to understand the comic or whatever. That's baloney. That is no good. No bueno. So we instead, everything is set up cleanly where you can read the novel and that's all you read if that's what appeals to you, but you're still getting a complete entertainment experience out of it. You're still getting a complete story. And the same with the comic. If we clearly want you to delve deeper into this world through all of the channels that are available to you, but you don't have to know anything reading the comic, because it's all of these things are very new user or new reader friendly. No matter how you approach the Alpha Clash universe through whatever medium, it's very it's very friendly to newcomers.
which is so nice to hear, because as somebody who reads your work almost religiously, Mark, you know, like I'll pick up, you know, the Batman Superman World's Finest or Justice League Unlimited or Shazam #1, and I know that I don't have to worry about heaves and waves of continuity before I can just, you know, jump in.
No, it is. I mean, clarity is everything, man. I mean, it doesn't mean your story has to be simple. It doesn't mean your story can't have a lot of complexity and layers to it. But at the bottom line is, if your readers don't know what's happening or get lost, you failed miserably. I don't care how good your story is. If I don't understand where I am in 3 pages, I am I'm out. And so I work very, very hard to make sure that every issue of everything I write, even if it's issue 2 or 3 of something and you're in the middle of a story, that you're still caught up and you still understand what's going on and what the stakes are and who the characters are.
For certain. And AJ, because again, this is kind of your first foray into the experience of doing comics and being a
Mhm.
visual medium, how has it been like working and collaborating not only with Waid but also the illustrators for your title?
Oh man, it's super
Yeah.
rewarding. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is. And I mean, at the risk of being cheesy, it's a dream thing, like, and I've told the story other places. I mean, like, I have comics going back to 1995, 1996. They're Mark Waid comics, like, and I find them as I'm moving stuff around, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and for me to do that, and even just to have lunch with the guy is the best, you know.
You're you're very kind. You're very kind. It's been a joy to work with you. It's been because you're open to ideas. You're open to I I never want this to feel like a teacher student relationship because it's not what it is, but you are very good at being able to be receptive to learning things that took me a long time to learn because now I'm in a position where I can articulate them to you. And so, you're a very quick study.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's great, we just I think also we just kind of get along, That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's an important part too, right? Collaborative
Yeah.
process requires
It really
communication.
is. And speaking of other collaborators, I mean, we have our artist who is terrific.
Yeah.
Pages have started coming in. This book has been in production for quite some time now. So the nice thing about the Kickstarter is that it's not going to be one of those where you're being asked to pledge for something that you won't see for like a year and a half, which is crazy. There's, I can't promise instant turnaround, but there's going to be a relatively quick turnaround
Yeah.
for the rewards on the Kickstarter. Yeah.
Which is super nice to hear because I can't imagine how much work obviously gets put into these. I mean, just as anybody, Mark. I mean, even working as an editor in the '80s, like people pumping in pages in and out. It's a tough job. Like
Yeah.
you're always impressed with seeing. Oh my gosh! Like I wrote that page or I wrote that piece of dialogue, and it looks so cool seeing it on paper. And AJ must have, I think the biggest hype moment of his hype moments of his
Mhm.
life, like right there sitting in front of him.
Well, it's really fun, and I gotta say too, it's really fun meeting fans, and people come out of the woodwork a little bit and they go, "Oh man," and what I find really fun and interesting is that certain people gravitate towards characters that I didn't think they would, and then other people go, "Oh my gosh," and even I am forced to look back on things and go, "Oh, that was kind of fun," or I didn't even intend that so
Right.
much when it was written, but this person interpreted it a certain way, and it really meant something to them, and so it kind of rebreathes value into what I was doing anyway, like there aren't really any throwaway lines. There aren't really any throwaway characters because some people, I mean, just will gravitate towards someone. And there's a character in the book named Paul. He's a waiter, and I kind of wrote him as a little comic relief, and people started to have a discord about Paul.
Yeah.
Is
That's the
this
great thing
guy?
about these universes is that every character is somebody's favorite.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I can't tell you how many times like I've watched a movie or I read a book and maybe there's one guy standing off in the corner that you think is like, oh, it's just maybe it's a throwaway,
Yeah.
but you find out, oh, somebody actually likes that person because they brought a moment
Yeah.
up or something like. I mean, that's what I think one of the beauties about team books, even in any comic book.
Yeah.
yeah. I think one of the best examples of that, what you just made me think of, is Bubba Fett. He
Yeah.
he's just standing in the corner. He's got a little thing, he plays a not as pivotal role, became such a fantastic fan, you
Yeah.
know.
Everybody is somebody's favorite. I mean, uh, you know, Airwave, for example, for Mark, I know that he's
Yeah.
a big fan, but somebody is gonna like him out there, and
I've got a lot of Airwave fans out there out of the blue, including my editor, which is crazy because talk about a throwaway character. But I mean, and honestly, the trick of that, and AJ knows this too, is that if I like the character as a writer and I show you why I like that character, then you're going to like that character too. It's important to be invested as a writer in all of these characters. And the more that you are comfortable with them and understand them and like them, the better a chance it is that they connect with somebody else.
for certain. And I want to thank you guys for investing your time
Of
into
course.
my afternoon to talk about the Kickstarter, that of which is linked not only down in the description, but there's a super big Kickstarter with the link under me as well. So please check it out. It's gonna be awesome. I love Mark Waid's stuff. And I really, really appreciate not only him, but also AJ Light taking his time out of his day to talk to me about this. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me.
Of course. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And like as always, guys, subscribe, check out the Kickstarter, and please have a fantastic and safe day wherever you might be.